What's up, party people? Welcome or welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Becky, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys every book I read in the months of February and March. I'm combining February and March together because I did not read enough in either of the months singularly, like by themselves, to do a full video on. So I'm doing a 2-month book wrap up. Oh my gosh, that scared me. I was like, there's a man behind me. Oh, it's just an ad on my cute Animal Crossing video. Okay. All right, let's start over from the beginning here. The book that I drew from my good old pal Dorothy for the month of February. If you watched my January reading wrap up, you saw that I drew the inheritance games, and I unknowingly claimed that this book was a fantasy book because of the cover. And I have a really bad habit of just seeing that a book is good, like seeing other people suggest it and just like making assumptions, but doing no research and just kind of going off of that. Well, I had full faith that this book was a fantasy book. Upon reading it, I'm here to report that it is in fact not a fantasy book. It just looks like it would be on the cover. I gave this book 3.5 stars on Fable. If you're not on Fable or following me on Fable, you definitely should. All the hot girls are on Fable this summer. My review on this is that it was cute. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't think I will go and read any of the other books in the series. It is a series. I definitely didn't like this book enough to push me to read any more of the books in the series. I'm glad that I tried it, and I'm glad that I got it out of my physical TBR. That's what I'll say about this. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite book I've read. It wasn't bad. I gave it 3.5 stars because I enjoyed it, but I can't really like I just wouldn't go and buy the other ones, if that makes sense. Like, it was YA, so maybe that's why I didn't love it as much, but there's other YA books that I really enjoy, so take that for what you will. The Girl with the Louding Voice. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Oh my gosh, this book is beautiful. It is so well written. This book is written from Adani's. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce the female main character's name, but that's how I was pronouncing her name the whole time. It was written in her voice, so it's written in broken English. She is from Nigeria, so it's written in broken English. So the first chapter I kind of struggled to understand, but after the first chapter it was so easy to read. I was like devouring this book. I will say lots of trigger warnings in this book, so check those before you pick it up. It's beautiful. It is heartbreaking and empowering, and it follows Adani and how she learns to have her louding voice. It is beautiful. It is so well written. I can't even like begin to tell you. Like, I definitely cried at certain points during this book, and as you guys know, that's not hard for me to do. I cry often when reading books, but this was just so beautiful. And if you're looking for a book to empower you but also break your heart at the same time, this may be it, girl. This may be the one for you. So Family Remains, I gave that book 3 stars. It's a Lisa Jewell book. I love Lisa Jewell. She's my girl. It is a follow-up to the book The Family Upstairs. I've never read The Family Upstairs before. I did not realize that The Family Remains was a follow-up book to The Family Upstairs. I have The Family Upstairs on my physical TBR right now, so that book has currently jumped up in rankings for me because I need to read it. I feel like if I read The Family Upstairs before, I may have enjoyed it more. That's my bad. But it can stand alone by itself because it didn't spoil anything from The Family Upstairs for me, which I was really thankful for because I still want to read it. I have it. So anyways, 3 stars for that one. I enjoyed it. Wasn't my favorite Lisa Jewell book I've ever read. No. And then this book right here was my Dorothy book of the month here from my TBR jar. I picked this up from McKay's because it is a book that is written by an author that is somewhat local to me. This book is set in Ringgold, Georgia, which is a tiny little town. I saw it at McKay's and I thought, what a fun read. I gave this book 3 stars. Okay, so this book follows the life of Catherine Grace and Martha Ann, which those are 2 of the most country names ever. I love those names. Honestly, I was like, Martha Ann. I love the name Martha Ann. Okay, I don't know why. I thought it was so cute. Adorable. Anyway, so it follows, for the most part, follows Catherine Grace's point of view, and she has these big dreams of leaving the small, tiny town of Ringgold, Georgia. Martha Ann and Catherine Grace lost their mom at a very young age, and they're preacher's daughters. Catherine Grace and Martha Ann go to Dairy Queen once a week, and they just like wish, or Catherine wishes to move beyond Ringgold, Georgia. Eventually, she's able to move and go on her adventures, and then life happens and she ends up having to come back to Ringgold, Georgia. I won't spoil anything for you, but I was a little frustrated by the ending of this book for a few reasons. I felt like the action that was in the last few chapters could have been like throughout the whole book. The action that happened in the last like 5 or 6 chapters, which the chapters are very short, by the way, okay? It happened so fast and so quickly that it felt very rushed, and I felt like the book would have benefited from having that earlier, right? Like giving the Catherine Grace more things to grapple with sooner, right? Catherine Grace's moral of the story that she learned is that it's like you should actually probably stay in your small town and marry your high school sweetheart, and that's okay. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I felt like I went on this whole journey with her in order for her to just circle back around and do what she was going to do in the beginning anyway. So I was like, why did I go on this journey? And some of the twists I was kind of like, okay, sure, fine. So this thing just felt really rushed. I'm glad I tried it though. I'm glad that I tried a smaller author. Now it's time to review The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I gave this book 3.5 stars on Fable. Okay, let me unpack with you why I love this book, okay? If you want to read this book, this is your warning. Please leave the chat, okay? Because I will be spoiling this book. Sorry, I have to like, I'm struggling to get my thoughts together because I have things to say. Okay, let's start with the positives, all right? Riley Sager's writing style, amazing. It is so easy to fly through a Riley Sager book, at least the one that I've read. I only read one so far, okay? Riley Sager's writing style is so easily consumable, even though the print is tiny. It's tiny baby print, okay? When I first opened this book, I was like, oh, we got small print, okay? So this is a small print book. All right, that's fine. The biggest twist in the book, I felt like, was set up so well, specifically because Riley kept like hitting the note of stark green eyes, stark green eyes, stark green eyes, right? Like that was like a point that kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And then this character, Bernice, who you will meet if you read the book, she mentioned that Lenora or whatever, right? Was that her name? Yes. Basically, Bernice mentioned that all Lenora had to do was bat her big blue eyes, okay? And when I read that sentence, all right, in the book, I had to reread it like 5 times because I, as a reader, went, wait, blue eyes? I thought she had green eyes, right? Like for a second, I thought that the author wrote blue on accident. And then I realized this is the twist. This is the big twist, okay? Where Lenora is actually Virginia, okay? And Lenora, we find out, is Miss Baker, which you will, if you read the book, past these spoilers, then you'll find out who all these people are, okay? That twist was everything. It was so well set up. It was like, however, it was overshadowed by every other twist that followed subsequently, like super fast, right after we learned that twist. Like that twist alone could have been enough to like let the book domino right after that, okay? But it didn't. There were so many other twists in the book that it made me be like, what? So this caretaker who's there, her father was actually the baby daddy of Virginia's kid, who's actually Lenora. I gotta restate that. You know what I'm saying? The nurse who's there to take care of Lenora, who's actually Virginia. The caretaker's dad is the baby daddy of Virginia's kid, who's actually Virginia, who's posing as Lenora. He killed the previous nurse. It's just all this stuff, and then the house crumbles, and then the dad of the nurse and Lenora, who's posing as Miss Baker, like fall away with the house that crumbles away. And then the worst twist of them all, the nurse's dad is named Patrick, and he's called Ricky. And so I'm like, okay, sure, I guess I could see how Ricky could be a nickname for Patrick, but how often in your life has that happened? The worst twist of this whole book was that Virginia, who we've known as Lenora this whole time, but we find out that she's Virginia, has been faking everything because she wants to torture her sister, who's trapped her in her home, okay? And like make her sister stay longer than she has to, because their father used to play this twisted game that they would get locked in their rooms and he would reward whoever could stay the longest. So she has faked not being able to speak, not being able to move, not being able to eat on her own, not being able to do anything on her own for years. She hasn't walked, she hasn't talked, she hasn't eaten on her own, she hasn't bathed herself, she hasn't wiped her own butt in years, okay? And she can do all of those things. She can actually, turns out, do all of those things. And she literally, at the end of this book, walks away with this other girl who worked at the mansion that happened to be her granddaughter somehow. And somehow her granddaughter figured it out and like sent her a message through these audiobooks that she was recording for her. That made me mad. I was like, what? I'm sorry, but you, like, all of that complaining makes it sound like I really hated the book. I didn't hate the book. I enjoyed the journey. I felt like there was lots of twists and turns in the book, but I was so annoyed by how many there were and how so many of them didn't really make that much sense. By the end of it, I was over it. I was like, okay, sure, she's walking away. Sure, that makes sense. Fine. Like, she's let somebody wipe her ass for 20 years, but she can walk, she can talk, she's just fine. Like, sure, okay, fine. Sure. And now we have The Joyful Recollections of Trauma. This book was actually suggested to me by my husband because he is aware of Paul Scheer from podcasts that he listens to and stuff like that. And I've never heard of this guy before, but my husband was like, I feel like you'd really enjoy this book. And so I checked it out from the library via audiobook, and I'm here to confirm I did indeed enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. It is truly a joyful recollection of trauma. The author told his life story, which has some crazy stories in it, some horrible things that happened to a child, in the most lighthearted and like funny way. And he just has such a good voice. And I did listen to it on audiobook, which I do highly suggest because I feel like that improved my experience so much, because hearing him tell the stories was hilarious. Okay, so if you are gonna read this book, listen to or anything, I suggest listening to it. I just kept wanting to go back and listen to more because it was that good. I laughed out loud multiple times. I was like, multiple times, because the stories actually were genuinely like kind of scary sometimes, kind of tough sometimes to think about a child having to deal with that kind of stuff. It was like, it's weird to say I had a good time reading about someone's life struggles, but I did. And I think that was the whole point of the book, obviously being called The Joyful Recollections of Trauma. I could not have picked a better name for that. Like, genuinely, shout out to whoever helped that man name that book, because it was the perfect definition of that phrase. So, and then we have my favorite writing duo, Christina Lauren. This book has been sitting on my TBR shelf for a very long time. My sister gave this to me for my birthday last year. Okay, it's been sitting on my desk. I mean, well, to be fair, we did spend the summer away in Chicago, so it was packed away. Okay, but it wasn't actually, because I actually took this book to Chicago with me. So I have no excuse. I don't know why I haven't picked it up. I just haven't. I wanted to read a romance book and I just so happened to have one on my shelf. Why I hadn't picked it up before then, I don't know. I have no idea because it was so cute. Christina Lauren never disappoints. And this book I gave 4 stars. It was adorable. If you've read Soulmate Equation, it was like a good follow-up to that one. Okay, if you read the Soulmate Equation, it's about an app that like matches people, like gives them diamond, platinum matches, whatever. This book, they use that app to create a dating show, and the 2 main characters, Connor and Felicity, they fall in love. It's a really sweet story. I read this book really fast. It's just a great romance book. If you're looking for an author who never disappoints, for me personally, Christina Lauren is one of those. Anytime I'm in like a reading slump or just need a little boost, I typically reach for a Christina Lauren book. And then we have my last book of the last 2 months, One Dark Window. This is officially my first ever fantasy book, and it will not be my last because my sister and I do a monthly book club, and she is really into fantasy books, romantasy books, what have you, and she's in charge of picking books every other month, and I can pretty much guarantee to you that she is picking a fantasy romantasy book every time. So which is fine because I probably wouldn't gravitate towards them without her, so that's great. This book was so good. I gave this book 5 stars. Obviously, it's my first actual fantasy book, so my first little dip my toe into this world, and what a great book to start with. I had a great time finishing this book. I devoured this book in, I don't know, 3 days, 4 days. I was worried because I got it like a week before, and I'm recording this even before my sister and I do our book club because I finished it so fast. Like, I was waiting to film this video until I finished this book, and here I am filming this video early because I finished this book so fast. So shout out me. Shout out the book for being so good. Morally ambiguous characters, great dialogue, great banter. The cliffhanger in this book is crazy. Like, I want to read the second book in this series. The 2 Twisted Crowns. I want to read the second book so bad now because I'm like, but I feel like if someone's wanting to dip their toes in fantasy like me, this may be the one to do it because, oh my gosh. Everyone say shout out to your sister. Say shout out Shell in the comments because she did the damn thing by picking that one, okay? And if you're interested, I actually, in a vlog, my last vlog I posted, I actually drew my April Dorothy book. So let me show you what that is. So the book I drew was The Help. So I'll be reading this in April for sure. And it's kind of a longer book. That's okay for my sister and I's book club because I like to give her books that aren't fantasy, and the way that she likes to give me books to read that are fantasy, that's very against what I typically do. I also like to put my personality in books and suggest books that I like to read that she probably wouldn't pick up on her own, and the book I picked for us is Call Your Daughter Home. So the reason why I have this book in my collection is because I was having a conversation with a stranger, okay? Don't know her name. We were just having a conversation about books because anytime I have to make small talk with anyone and they like books, you better believe my introverted ass is gonna bring up a book, okay? So we were talking about books and she had told me that she had just finished reading this book and she was ripped to shreds. She said it was probably one of the best books she had read. At that time, it was 2024. So she said it was the best book she read in 2024. So I put this on my Christmas list, and my mother-in-law got it for me. My mother-in-law and father-in-law got it for me for Christmas. And so I've been wanting to read it. And so obviously I picked this one up for the book of the month for April because April is my birthday month. Okay, party people, that is all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you had a favorite book that you read recently or if you've read any of the books I chatted about. Let me know your thoughts on them. I would love to chat with you in the comments down below. It really helps out my channel, lets the YouTube algorithm know that you like my videos. That would be really great. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video super soon. Bye!